All right, we are going live. Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Friday, April 4th, 2025. It is just after 9 a.m. and we are doing a quick check-in. So I wanted to let you all know. So yesterday we heard the policy piece of education, and I am chatting with House Ways and Means. They are doing what we do, which is sort of a straw poll, but they're also going to be working all day Monday, and they're going to do their final vote Tuesday morning, but we're going to get it Tuesday from the floor and have to vote it out Tuesday. But we can, we've arranged, at least tentatively, so put it in your calendars in pencil, for 4 o'clock on Monday to hear from Julia Richter on the ed finance piece. So this is Zoom, you don't have to come in. You can all just do it from home. I'll probably be here because I usually come over anyway.
I'll probably be here.
And
I come down.
You come down the day before? Okay. So if there are a couple of us here, and we can discuss that at some point, we can discuss it and then before we go to the floor, then we would actually have it in this room. Otherwise, if there's a couple of us, then it'll be easy just to do it from here. Otherwise, people can be in their own offices,
If you don't want to, if you want to do someplace else.
No. So we can work out the details, but at this point, we're going to plan on 4. It could be an hour and a half. I don't know. And then what will happen when we get the final bill on Tuesday in our possession, we'll just have a run through of the bill, but it should all be familiar, and they can also tell us if there were any changes that happened over the weekend. I'm thinking the policy side probably isn't going to change. If you have questions about the bill, certainly the policy, now that you've heard of it, go talk to people, get your questions answered. We've done our getting in the weeds as much as we're going to get in the weeds on that. And then Monday will be our, the part where we can ask more questions then, but then otherwise we're just going to move it out on Tuesday. So that's the plan with that. We will confirm that time today, but that's the plan. Secondly, we sent out the email, Erin sent it out to Sarah Clark, we're confirming that it's now gone out to all state agencies on the question of federal grants and the spreadsheet, and you all got a copy of it. I emailed it to you yesterday. So we're going to start booking people possibly as early as Tuesday. You may have seen the email overnight from the Vermont Historical Society, which has now had their 5-year grant pulled. Humanities Council. And we know about the library. So there are some smaller ones we'll probably get in first because they won't have it's not as complicated for them to respond. Human Services will be at the end of a couple of weeks of having this sort of thing. So we want to give people time. But we're going to contact them once we know that they've gotten the email, so they don't hear from us before and say, what are you talking about? So hopefully they've heard from Sarah. So Erin's checking on that. So our schedule next week would be any bills that are coming through to us. I don't really know of any. There won't be an onslaught. If there is a miscellaneous bill in there, I'll let you know. But otherwise, we'll be working on this federal funds thing and keeping track of finding out what's happening. So that is everything I know. Does anybody have any questions about this point? I guess I would just say this is going to be a year, and be prepared for coming back I don't know what's going to happen, but we can expect that things are going to happen beyond our usual session.
Do you have any information about the BAA in the Senate?
Oh, yes. So there was an amendment attempt on the floor to amend it to reflect the executive order that the governor did, and it went down 14-16. So it is passed the way it is. I'm guessing I don't know if it goes to the governor, right? I think they actually they suspended rules and sent it to the governor right away.
Okay.
That's my understanding. And so that's what I know. What happens from there, I don't know.
And again, I apologize for missing the beginning of yesterday's testimony with Sarah. And but did the administration imply that they were keeping track of the impacts of the tariffs or any of these cuts in a way that was, well, in a way that's accurate, or just like,
Yeah.
So for instance, the something I just heard upstairs was one of the potential tariffs. I mean, nobody knows all the impacts, but
Right.
one of the potential tariffs in the agricultural world is storage units for maple syrup, for cans
Oh,
and
yes.
glass. Glass comes from
Glass,
Asia, cans can come from as close as Canada.
Right.
But an increase in the price of what you package your materials in will, so, I mean, to me, that's what the impacts of kind of what the dominoes are, not just the big number.
That's right. That's right. And part of the spreadsheet will be, so yesterday, I was really clear with them that we were only focusing on the budget adjustment, not on future federal funds and impacts. So we did not talk about that as part of, so you didn't miss that conversation. Sarah and Adam were involved with JFO and the spreadsheet and the memo that went out under my name yesterday. So everybody was on board with what we were doing. So we had some nice collaboration there. And so we'll be able to share that information and they'll obviously have copies of it too.
I'm talking about tariffs.
I know.
But it's not just the tariffs. I mean, it's the impacts of like what happened with humanity. I mean, it's.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
What are the
So we
dominoes that
can
are
ask,
falling?
right,
Yeah, and that's directly federal funding grants, which the
Right.
agencies. I don't know on the tariffs, who's obviously the Commerce and Community Development is certainly watching it, but
right.
I don't know.
And I think
what they-
the treasurer is doing some also,
Yeah.
but those would be questions that would be good to ask when we have people come in too, is what are we hearing? And one of the questions was, what's happening below the surface of the grant? Sort of are there sub-grantees and what are the other impacts that are happening? So those would be good questions to ask when we have people come in.
Because that's part of the.
Yeah.
I appreciated, the comments that were, it's hard to react. It's like this metronome of, oh my God, I heard this, so should I overreact? Or should I react, which might be an overreaction, and then 3 days later, it's back here. And so I appreciate the sort of equanimity of those reactions.
Right.
But
Or
there's
yeah.
there's an underlying, in so many different ways, of what the impacts are. Medicaid, well, that means hospitals are gonna get, damaged.
Right.
et
What
cetera,
are
et
all
cetera.
the other, they aren't peripheral so much, but they.
But the road
They are,
dominoes.
yes.
The road dominoes.
Absolutely. So those are the kinds of questions we should be asking when we have people come in. I mean, the Humanities Council did a nice job of saying, here's the programs, here's a few of the programs, right?
Is anyone tracking the impact on nonprofit organizations that provide vital services upon which we depend? I mean, they don't have a uniform voice here, and many don't have any voice here, because they can't afford to have lobbyists. But there are, the Humanities Council has long depended upon a mix of support, but a lot of it comes from this federal grant. But there are many others that rely on other kinds of, and I don't know, how far we cast our nets to understand.
At the moment, we are looking at, we're looking at the state, because that's our focus is.
Right, but these
grants
are organizations that are providing essential state services.
I know that, and I don't know where that's happening. I wonder if like United Ways could be doing something like that.
Yeah, well,
Who are the right people? I know they're talking, yeah, because it is an important thing, because it will impact what we do in state government as well.
Not to be a Debbie Downer. However,
You can't possibly be any more of a Debbie Downer.
okay, put the down. It might, and it's probably too early to know, but it might be interesting if Chris Root can give us any update or scenarios, but personal income tax is our biggest general fund revenue source. And the last few years, personal income tax revenues has been up and above over the forecast. what a lot of people don't think about is the fact that stock market gains, not for people like me, but for people with more wherewithal, do impact their income taxes and their estimated tax payments based on stock market gains. And it doesn't affect, within an IRA, I mean, you're not taxed on that until you pull it out, but if you have money outside of an IRA, which, some people do, that could have a very chilling impact on general fund revenue, because there's quite a healthy percentage of our total income receipts come from folks above a certain income strata.
Right.
So it
So
just,
they're looking.
I don't know if Chris would be the right person
Yeah,
from.
so we actually talked about that
Yeah.
on Wednesday at Money Chairs, and everything this year is difficult because everything this year is based on last year's income. So we're gonna get stuff in April, right?
Because of that.
Because of that. And so, but their estimated taxes may change as a
Right.
result. But I think we're thinking about that, and I think it's a little too early. We also talked about, I don't know if we talked about it here, but I talked about it somewhere. What happens if Canadian tourism drops by
Right.
20 or 30%, because that affects rooms and meals, which
Sure.
affects the education fund.
Right.
And sales and use, which affects the education fund. So all of our funds get impact, I mean, it's all of it.
Yeah, and again,
So I think those are all things we want to know, and I think it's
we
probably
have to
too
be
early.
aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to focus on that. You only know what you know.
Right, but we can expect that they may go down, the extent to which they go down, I don't know yet. John?
Yeah, I just know over in our area there, we have a lot of tourism that comes from all directions here.
Right.
Clearly here, New England, a lot of stuff we got going on here, but our Canadian traffic as well. And I think we just all need to be mindful when we go home here for the weekend. Don't be afraid to reach out and see what might be happening.
Right.
We're already getting cancellations in our area.
Yeah.
Already.
Oh, sure.
That happened some weeks ago when the tariffs were first announced. They're like, we'd love to come, but
Right,
we're just not going to this year.
that's right.
And that when you have small communities, that small tourist towns, like where I am right there,
Right.
be some impacts there. Skiers didn't really get hit because they already made almost all the money anyway early in the season. It's just last people showing up.
They had cancellations too, but they had.
Yeah,
Well,
but-
because we had.
That's not as much impact
Yeah.
there that you might think. But as we move into like this, I mean, one organization, they're opening up their stuff here the first weekend of May.
Right.
And we're already not going to be hiring as many people to work on certain days.
Right.
There's already been cuts. They've already got a notification about that here. So we just need to, that will impact what Jim was referencing here in
Yeah.
terms of just general tax revenues coming in.
Right, and and all of those impact the education fund too.
Yeah.
Sales and use, rooms and meals.
So might be a few more people looking for more work, potentially.
Employment, unemployment.
Department of Labor.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be hearing from them, and at some point it would be good to hear from the Department of Tourism. I mean, we'll hear from ACCD, but we may want to hear from each of the individual,
Yeah.
the three groups: economic development, tourism, and housing and development.
Yeah, we're trying to just
They're all
be
gonna be-
patient with that here too, because there's always that initial reaction when something like this has happened here.
Right,
At the end, who's really gonna maybe decide to not
Yeah.
come here because the tariff piece.
Exactly.
And to your point about the tourism, I think the tourism should spend a lot of time in here because,
yeah,
just because the snow's going, these are 4-season resorts now. They're
Right.
biking and hiking and whatnot. This
Right.
is, the impact food and.
yeah, all those things.
I mean, we've already heard, the 20% cancellation rate up at J. So it's just, it's, again, to me, I just keep,
Yeah.
when I went to sleep last night, all I could think of was the road down.
Yeah, it's
So,
that
I think-
transition
yeah.
time from the winter season into
Yeah, the second stick
the
season.
second, yeah.
AKA mud season, so, yeah, it's gonna be a ride, folks. And we are going to be right in the thick of it because of being on this committee. So rest up while you can.
Red
Tell
Bull.
Pat you may not have to get to everything on that to-do list. All right, so we'll assume Monday at 4. I will confirm that as soon as I know, but put that in your calendars. We have the page ceremony. I cannot believe the second round of pages are already leaving. I feel like it was 2 weeks ago, but they are, so we all need to be on the floor to.
Do we get a third round?
We do.
Yeah, we
Well, we
do.
won't get a fourth, and we might need a fourth, but we will all be. They'll all be on summer vacation and here.
Maybe we can hire some senior citizens.
That's right. So I think that's everything. Let's go off.